and you want to just, hang out and talk about inanimate objects and the drama surrounding inanimate eyeshadow palettes, you are in the right place because I feel like we need a palette cleanser. I feel like we need something that just there's no meaning to it when it comes down to it. It's just old stories about eyeshadow palettes that caused controversy in the past. Of course, some of them have a little bit of a deeper theme going on with them, but in the end, it's powder in a packaging when it comes down to it. So I'm not trying. See, now I'm like sitting there, second guessing my thoughts because some of them there is a little bit of a deeper thing going on with it. But I really want to try to keep this as lighthearted of a chat as possible because I do think that we need that. And yeah, my hair looks frizzy. And my eyeshadow is really bright. Oh my gosh, we'll talk about that when we get to the center. So I've got a collection of about 12 eyeshadow palettes that I want to go over with you and kind of talk about the different controversies that happen. Some of them more serious than others that surrounded these eyeshadow palettes. I just kind of throw them all on my floor over here because I don't have any space to my left and right for all of these eyeshadow palettes. But I figure we just talk just old stories and reminisce or hear stories for the first time and just spend time as a community because I think, it's nice to be together. It's nice to be together. So before we do, let's quickly say hello to the people that are here live in the collective brain of makeup awesomeness. I'm sure that some of them at least will remember all of these stories. So I'm sure they'll be contributing to the conversation. Hello, Chloe. Chloe said, good morning, Jen. We had a historic snowstorm this week in Louisiana. Oh my gosh. We're back to our normal rain and 60-degree winter weather. Wow. How much snow did you get? Wow. We still have snow on the ground. I'm in Maryland. We still have snow on the ground from, I don't know, weeks ago because it won't melt because it's so freaking cold. So hopefully it's good. It's supposed to be in the 40s today, which will be nice. Hi, Donna Lee. Good morning. Got my coffee and crochet ready to chit chat. Oh, I love that. What are you making? What kind of crocheting are you doing? I was about 1 minute late because I wanted to refill my coffee. I wanted to refill my coffee, and I'm so glad that I did because it's so hot and perfect. So we'll sip our coffee together. Good morning, Tish. How are you? Good to see you. Good morning, Melissa in Minnesota. I bet it's cold there. Hello, Teresa. Hello, everyone. Welcome to live chat. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing well as well, Teresa and Flory and Steph and Audra. Thank you for being our lovely moderator team. I appreciate you. Gabrielle, good morning, live chat. Bitter cold in Southern Oregon, at least for us. I want to go back to Oregon. I loved Oregon when we visited. Monica, happy Sunday. I've been by myself all weekend. My fiance had to go to a funeral for one of his firemen. Oh no. So he's in California. Oh, I'm so sorry. And I'm here in Oregon with this frosty weather. Not too bad, but it's cold. I'm so sorry for his loss. Ugh, breaks my heart. I'm so sorry. Hello, Daniel. Good morning to you. Good morning, Jen. Mods, a collective brain. Personally, I love the ugly winter weather. It's cozy. Nice. I love that for you. That's great. Clarissa, good morning to you. And Stephanie, good morning from Saskatchewan, Canada. Excited to make it to another live. Happy Sunday, everyone. Another place that is probably really, really cold. Dolphins girl, good morning to you. Yeah, that sweater I'm wearing in What's Up in Makeup, John got it for me for Christmas, and it was so warm. Like I was sweating. It was so warm. So warm. I can't get over my eyeshadow and how bright it is. That was not intentional, but whatever. We're going to go with it. Hi, Kim. Happy Sunday in Vegas. Finally getting some rain. That's great. I heard it's raining in California, which is wonderful. Hopefully that doesn't cause other additional problems. Anna, hello, everyone. Good morning, Jen. Yes, I made it this Sunday. Yay, I'm happy you're here. I've been unable to be in the lives and watched later this week, but I'm in. I'm so happy you're here, Anna. Thank you for being here. Hello, Tiffany in Spooky Pine Barrens, New Jersey. Hello. Hello, Sorojan. Happy Sunday. And Carrie and Mons and Stephanie again and Anna and Shadows of Dark. And there's Flory and Sorojan. Hello. I'm sorry you've had a rough week. Hopefully this will be nice and lighthearted. Thank you so much. We do have a quick super chat before we get started. Let me go ahead and scroll down. Chloe, thank you so much for the super chat. We got about 10 inches of snow. No way. That's a lot. In New Orleans, the last of it melted just yesterday. Wow. And Mons is showing off her member for 44 months. I can't believe that. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mons. I appreciate you. I know we've butted heads a couple times, so I'm so glad that you're still here. Thank you so much. All right. So let's jump in. I'm going to grab one. Let's do this one. Okay, the Urban Decay Electric Palette. Okay, this actually was not mine. I did not purchase this. This actually belonged to my husband. He had a very long time ago, a very he was in his 20s and he was a dude and inappropriate, and it was an inappropriate makeup parody channel. And he bought this for that. Yeah, it was a thing back a long time ago. Thankfully, I hope all of those videos are gone because they were very crude. Let's just say they were very crude, and his personality has changed quite a bit since then. Anyway, he's had a lot of YouTube channels over the years. Currently not active on any of them. So the Urban Decay Electric Palette, this caused a bunch of controversy because it was the first eyeshadow palette that I know of, maybe the first one that was just mainstream, but the first eyeshadow palette that I know of that had the disclaimer on the back, not safe for eye use, and people lost their minds. It says on the back here, if I can read it, I don't know if I'll be able to read it. Of course I can't. But basically, let me see if I can, maybe I can read it. Maybe it's not on the, yeah. No, I don't know. I'm having trouble. It's so tiny. It's so tiny. I'll hold it up and then maybe you can read it. But I think it might have just been on the box. Now looking at it, it may have just been on the box. But we've had this discussion since this eyeshadow palette, probably 10 years ago, about pigments that are not safe for eye use. They're approved for eye use all over the world. The EU approves them. We have not approved them here in the US. So eyeshadow palettes, even still today, confuse people when it says shade so-and-so, 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 and so-and-so are not intended for the immediate eye area. And it's because they legally have to say that, not because they actually are not intended for the immediate eye area. It's all a loophole. There have been lawsuits. Morphe got sued, ColourPop got sued, Huda Beauty got sued, class action lawsuits. People claiming that they were harmed by these eyeshadow, the eyeshadows, specifically in the Morphe case. People were claiming that they were harmed by it, specifically the James Charles palette, which I have down here, which we'll talk about. And they were the other ones were more of a mislabeling, like it was marketed as an eyeshadow palette. There were photos that there were eyeshadow palettes, and yet you're telling me I'm not supposed to be using this on my eyes. And because it's a loophole, because there's no reason for them not to be approved for eye use. Yes, there are some people that are sensitive to these pigments, but there are people that are sensitive to all kinds of things, fragrances and bismuth oxychloride, which is a common ingredient in eyeshadows that's kind of scratchy for some people. There's so many ingredients people can be sensitive to, but that doesn't necessarily mean it should be not approved. There's no, to my knowledge, accounts of anybody losing vision or anything that other than a little bit of staining, a little bit of, difficulty removing it. I remember Cody Tyler, who complained specifically about the James Charles palette and went viral for that. They said they got hives from it, which I don't know. That's really the only time I've ever seen anybody actually show that they were caused physical harm. But what this eyeshadow palette did was it opened up that world of the ability to use colors like this. Because Urban Decay did this, because they went there, it then opened up a whole realm of colors for everybody else. Because they were able to do it, and other brands saw it and they went, oh my gosh, we can use those colors. Like what? Mostly it's reds. There's a yellow, I believe, as well, but mostly it's reds. So it brought those neon yellows, the neon yellow that's in here. It brought these bright pinks that we just didn't have before. So this was an iconic, like game-changing eyeshadow palette that really changed the industry. And I don't think that it verbally gets enough credit for what it did to the entire industry. So that's the story of the Urban Decay Electric Palette. I'm going to go ahead and click on a few comments. Okay, Mary says, "I used highlighter markers around my eyes in the early mid-80s. I'm not dead." That's so funny. I don't know if I ever used markers on my face. I know I drew on my arms. I don't know if I ever put markers on my face. That's so interesting. Dre says, "I saw a ton of new releases from Wet n Wild in my local Walmart yesterday, and I was like, what? Why is anyone talking about this? Did you see all the new Wet n Wild stuff?" I did not. I did not. I did not do a product report this week. I do have a list of things to mention when I get back. That's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother story. Anna says, "Is that the palette that was in collaboration with Gwen Stefani?" No, hers was white and it had gold dots on it. That one supposedly I didn't own that, but that one got fantastic reviews. A lot of people really loved the Urban Decay Gwen Stefani palette, but it wasn't that one. So, Bethany, good morning. Eyeshadow palettes are super addictive. Yes, they are. They absolutely are. I love collecting all of the colors. Yeah, Beatrice says groundbreaking back in the day. Totally, totally. I did see the LA Colors does have some new releases. I did see that. Dayeti says, "I'm sensitive to tons of things. Had the staining from eyeshadow. If that's the worst, not a problem." Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay, let's go into the next one. Okay, this one's really funny. Okay, so for the longest time, Tarte, and even still now, Tarte got so much crap for only coming out with natural eyeshadow palettes. People were not happy with them. They were like, "When are you going to release some color? These are all boring. These are so stupid. They're so boring. They all look the same. It's always natural. When are you going to come out with something colorful?" This was their answer to that. This is the Tartist Pro Remix palette. And if you can see it, it had this really cool, like shifty cover to it. I don't know if it's doing, there it goes, up and down is where you can see it, where it's got the paint splatters and they move. Was it lenticular motion, something like that, where they move on there. So it was a really cool design. This was the inside of it. It followed their Tartist Pro format, and people hated it. People absolutely hated it. And I think it was because it just didn't make sense to people. People had trouble figuring out how to use it because Tarte had trained their customers for very user-friendly eyeshadow palettes. Eyeshadow palettes easy to navigate, easy to figure out how to use the different the different shadows that were in there. And this just confused the heck out of people. People didn't know what to do with it. So people were trying to like use it across the rows, but this guy down here, this bottom row, was really difficult to work with. It was just, the design of it was just a mess. And I don't think they ever did anything like this ever again. They were like, "Well, we tried and we failed and you hated it, so we're never doing it again." And I don't think they ever did anything quite like this ever again. It wasn't a bad formula. It was just really confusing for the Tarte audience who was used to something very user-friendly. So that was that. That's the Tarte Pro Remix palette. Yeah. Joe says, "Oh my gosh, the Tarte Pro Remix palette. This is so nostalgic. Nostalgic. This is the best laptop." Like, I thought it would be. I thought it would be fun. It's going to be very niche and who shows up for this chat, but that's okay. We need something that's just chill. Spurgeon said, "Every time I saw that palette in stores, it was swatched to actual oblivion." I think because people were just so freaking confused. So freaking confused. Oh my gosh, Mons. Icy Betch by Tarte. Yes, I remember that. I don't think I got it. I can't remember. I had something very similar to that, but I don't know if I actually got Icy Betch. So this is the thing with Icy Betch. I have to tell the Icy Betch story now, Mons. So Tarte put out an April Fool's joke along the same lines of this, where they were getting complaints that they didn't do any colors. So they put out an April Fool's joke of this palette called Icy Betch. And it was all of these blues, and it was really gorgeous, like really pretty. And everybody's like, this is not a nice April Fool's joke because we actually want this palette. And then they ended up making it. So, but I think that that one did get positive reviews, if I remember right, Mons. Am I telling that story correctly? I think I am. But yes, that was a moment too. That was a moment. I don't think I own that one, but I don't know when the Tardis Pro remix came out. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Tardis Pro remix palette launch. 28. It looks like 2018. November 2018 was when that was launched. And there's Mel. Every time I search for a palette man from that time period, I find Mel Thompson. My girl. She reviewed everything back then. Oh. Yes, it was an April Fool's joke, and then they ended up launching it because everybody was like demanding it. Like, you have to launch this. This is so cute. All right, next one. Okay, this one's a little more obscure. Okay, the Kat Von D Beauty Pastel Goth palette. Okay, this was super lighthearted. We're doing some of the lighthearted ones. Maybe we'll do Conspiracy palette next, since we've gotten some of the like lighthearted ones. Okay, Pastel Goth by Kat Von D Beauty, which is now KVD Beauty. The big controversy surrounding this was people said it wasn't pastel, which I looked at this as a non-artist and was like, that looks pastel to me. Like, this side, I thought it was pastel. I genuinely did. But the artist community freaked out because they were like, that's not pastel. So I don't know. That was when I started questioning myself and not knowing, like, is up, up and down, like, or is up, down, and down, up? Because I thought this was pastel. I genuinely did. But the artist community was like, no, it's absolutely not. So that was the big controversy surrounding this one. Okay. SJ says, okay. Julie's, I think it's pastel. I thought so too. And SJ says, that is not pastel. It's too intense. And then Femme Dandy says, the people don't know that pastel goth is subculture, not a color story. Wait, what? The people don't know that pastel goth is subculture. Oh, okay, gotcha. Not a color story, because pastel goth was a subculture of people. It's people who embrace that color story, the pastel goth color story. Is that what you're saying? That's what I think you're saying, which I did not know either until this very moment. I did not know that. So thank you for teaching me that. Tiffany says, wow, I wanted pastel goth back then before the drama. Right. Because yeah, the things, I do have a video that I released I think it was in 2018 that I released the video on the history of, actually probably could have been the first behind the controversy video of Kat Von D and why people believe she was anti-Semitic and all of that stuff. So that's on my channel somewhere way, way back. But yes, that was before all of that. Mary says, Kat bought some of my ceramic art once. That's interesting. Oh, that's so cool. That's kind of neat. Kaylee says, I'm shocked that KVD continues to exist. The rebrand was not enough to erase history. Yeah. And I think that's, honestly, I feel like kind of bad for the people that took it over, because they really did try to move on from her. They genuinely did. And I don't know if they've been fully successful in doing that. They need to figure out their new identity and really push it. And I feel like they started off just on a bad foot they changed their name. They tried to make it an acronym for like kindness, vegan, doing good. Like, it was just weird. And then they changed it to Latin, and that was weird. If they had just stuck with like the artists that they hired, because they hired a bunch of like really cool, edgy artists to be the face of the brand, they should have stuck with that, in my opinion, and just really embraced the audience that had come to love Kat Von D Beauty and really nurtured them and done things. They could have done collaborations with music artists that would have been appreciated by that their audience. They could have done collaborations with all kinds of people, or theming. There's so much opportunity in the audience that Kat Von D Beauty catered to, and they just missed the opportunities. Like, it's like the people that took it over didn't understand who they were marketing to. I mean, that had to have been it, because they just kind of fell into oblivion. It's kind of sad. That they weren't able to bring it back, because it's not their fault what she did. Pink Tanya says, I love KVD Beauty. Actually, their foundations and concealers are amazing. The Good Apple line is what I'm talking about. You know, I've heard mixed things about Good Apple. I feel like with Good Apple, people either really love it or really, really hate it. So, um, yeah, Lindsay says, kind vegan good is what happens when a committee renames something. Exactly, exactly. Like it totally didn't even fit. Like what was even happening? Asha says, I just repurchased the KVD Shane Light Contour palette. Nothing ever came close to me. That really was a good palette. I do still have it. I haven't used it in years, but I do still have that. But yeah, that's what happened with the Pastel Goth palette. Let's go into conspiracy. I do own this. I do own the Conspiracy Sailor palette by Jeffree Star Cosmetics. I did purchase this because I was in my era of it's about the product, not the people behind. I was in that era, and I will forever apologize for that era of my life. But this was iconic. We can't deny that this was iconic. The one of the most watched series in the history of YouTube. The docuseries that Shane Dawson did on Jeffree Star. They did a docuseries together. Then they did the development of this eyeshadow palette, and I had bought it hook, line, and sinker. I was in the thought of Jeffree Star is a changed person, and Shane Dawson is an amazing documentary filmmaker. I'll know if I could go back and slap myself. I swear I would slap myself. I'll be like, girl, wake up. Like what? If you look closely, I'm actually even in a montage in one of the docuseries. They have a clip of me applying this palette in, I think, the last episode. There, I like flash in there really quick because I was actually like talking to Shane Dawson in DMs on Twitter at the time. He was watching my channel at the time, and I thought I was so cool. Rolling my eyes at myself. But yeah, I mean, it was all a big marketing for this eyeshadow palette. Let me show you the color story inside. It was really freaking weird color story. I don't know. We're all brainwashed or something. Like, what even is this? Like, what is even happening here? Like, for real. Like, what is this color story? What were we thinking? Like, really and truly, what were we thinking? Yeah. So what else could I say about this? Okay. If you feel inclined, if you want to give a view, I would understand if you do not want to ever give a view again. But because I did the series on James Charles, I went back and I watched some of the docuseries that Shane had done. And I don't know what I was thinking. They're not good. Like they're okay. But at the time I thought they were so good. And it's like, why did I think there's so much rambling and so much inconsequential BS in those docuseries, in those videos. Like you're just waiting for something consequential to happen. And it eventually does. Like there's things that move the plot along or whatever, but they're really not great. And like they got like 34, 35 million views a piece. We were all so caught up in it. Why? Smack me. Swear. Yeah, Dana says so many people fell for this series, me included. It was a moment in time. It really was. I remember I was going to the chiropractor at the time. I forget why. I forget what was wrong with me. Probably my hip or I don't know, my neck. I think it was my neck. Maybe. I don't know. I've had issues over time that I've gone to a chiropractor. Honestly, I think it's the physical therapy that helped me. Like, 'cause they do like physical therapy with you along with the chiropractor stuff. Honestly, personally for me, I feel like it was the physical therapy that really helped me rather than the actual chiropractor visit. But anyway, I was going to the chiropractor and I had just come up with the idea for Mad Marshmallows and I was bringing the people at the chiropractor, you know, marshmallow samples and stuff. And I guess it was, no, was it 2020? I don't know when did this even happen? Anyway, is my timeline right? Anyway, my point is there was a woman that worked at the chiropractor's office. Maybe it was a different chiropractor. I don't know. Woman that worked at the chiropractor office, and she was a huge Jeffree Star fan. And she was wearing the mini conspiracy palette on her eyes one day. And I took a picture with her and I sent it to Shane. And she was so excited that I was talking to Shane and sending the picture of her. And she was all fangirling over it. And I was like, I thought I was so cool. And Smack me. Just smack me. And he was really nice to me, but he had a reason to be. So, drank the Kool-Aid. I did. We all drank the Kool-Aid. It gave us fever dreams afterwards. I know, Donnelly. There were so many of us that drank the Kool-Aid back then. We're like, what did we do? So, yeah, Katie says his series were always clickbait. Yeah. Soroshan said, that's awesome, Jen. That's growth. You learned so much about doing docs. Now you can see how terrible Shane's are. I know, right? They are a lot of work. And the thing is Shane got so much credit for the editing when it wasn't even him. He never edited anything. That was not his. Like, I feel like, I forget what his editor's name was, but I feel like that he was really the powerhouse behind those docuseries. Yeah, but anyway. Yeah, so there you go. There you go. That's conspiracy. We still have a lot to talk about. Okay, let's do one more, and then we'll take a little break, and I'll tell you what's on my face today. I want to talk about this one. This is the Laura Lee Cat's Pajamas palette. Laura Lee Los Angeles. This was her first eyeshadow palette, okay? Laura was so excited about this. When she launched this, she was so excited because you have to remember back then, this was before, I'm pretty sure Laura Lee Los Angeles launched before Lunar Beauty. So really and truly, there were very few influencer makeup companies. We had Makeup Geek from Marlene Estelle. I believe Dominique Cosmetics still existed back then. I think so. But there really weren't many. And Laura Lee had thought she did something with this. And I remember just feeling so bad for her because this palette got roasted so hard. And I felt so bad for her at the time. I was like, oh, because when you work so hard on something, you're so proud of it. And people are like, girl, that is a mess. I was like, oh no. Okay, so the outside. Okay, we have this. It was the design of it. People roasted her over. It wasn't the formula, it was the outside. So it had this like glam outside. So this was supposed to represent Laura's glam outside, right? And you open it up and it had this wild, repeated, like Photoshop looking pattern on the inside. People were like, what is happening? You had the obstructed mirror that people hated. And people just thought like, why does this look like this? Like, this is so, but it was supposed to represent who Laura is on the inside and who Laura is on the outside, right? And the shades, I think there's one that's spelled wrong, if I remember right. No, maybe not. Okay, so the shade names are Okie Dokie, Scatterbrain, Bomb Diggity, Cray Cray, Redonkulous, Quirky, Kooky, in one ear, out the other, and oddball. I don't know why I thought there was a shadow that was spelled wrong in here. I don't know why I had that in my head. Doesn't look like it to me that I can see. But yeah, she got absolutely roasted for this. Absolutely roasted. Oh, Mon says that's such a modern Renaissance copycat. Let's get modern Renaissance out. Hold on. I just had that palette in my hand. Let's look at it. I happen to know exactly where that palette is because it was just in. Let's look. Okay. Do you think it's a copycat? That's a really good point. Let's look at it. I mean, it's definitely, yeah, I mean, I could see where you're coming from on that. I do feel like the top middle shade and the ABH in the Modern Renaissance is kind of similar, but the reds are definitely different. There's a black that's different. There's naturals in there that look similar. I mean, that's kind of a good point. I never even thought about that, at least recently. Maybe I thought about it a while ago and I just forgot, but that's a really good point. I just laughed at your doggy says it looks like crab meat on the inside. They're flowers. It's not crab meat. like imitation crab meat. Y'all are terrible. Y'all are terrible. But I felt so bad for Laura at the time. I did because she'd worked so hard on it. And then she got roasted so bad. And I was like, oh no. Oh no. So Swag says, to be honest, no, I love the cat's pajama. It has a black shade. Yeah, I mean, I Oh, as far as the comparison, yeah. But honestly, I really liked the Laura Lee Los Angeles eyeshadow formula. She really did a good job on the formula, and I felt like the shades were good. I do have a full review of this palette and Nudie Patootie, I believe. Maybe it was Nudie Patootie that had a shade spelled wrong that I'm remembering. But yeah, they are both from the same era. You're absolutely right. Sandra says that she wouldn't consider that a dupe. I mean, it's similar though. Like I could see where she's coming from. Jocelyn says I would tell her who came with do something different. Wait. I would tell her who came with do something different. I think where I understand what you're saying, I think. Steph says, I think it would have been better if the side with the shadows was a solid color, but the mirror section is sending me into a spiral. I know. She got roasted so hard. Poor Laura. Anyway, okay. So industry is harsh. The industry is harsh. Mary says, now I want some crab cheese. I get some crab rangoons. That's so funny. All right. Let's talk about what's on my face today real quick. And then we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 palettes left. Can we make it? I don't know. I'm going to have to move faster. Okay. So on my eyes today, this was just set in PR. This is the Bitten palette by Gourmand Girls. And it is so fun. Like, I can confidently recommend every single Gourmand Girls palette that I have ever used. I can confidently recommend it. And they are beautiful. They apply very easily. They're easy to use. It's really just about finding the color story that you like because they're fun. They're super fun. I did depart from this palette for one shade. This was sent to me by Nomad. This is their Après Ski palette. I used a little bit of this shade right in the center just to brighten it a little bit because it was a little dark. So I put a little bit of like this duochrome, like white, pink, purpley kind of duochrome, like, I don't know, multi-chrome. It's even got a little bit of blue in there. It's really pretty. So I popped a little bit of that in the center of my lid just to kind of brighten it a bit because I felt like it was kind of dark. So love, 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 love Gourmand Girls. Oh my gosh. They came out of freaking nowhere for me. All right. And so that's what's on my eyes. On my cheeks today, I used the blush that I got in my Beautylicious Lucky Bag. If you have not seen that video, you should go watch it because it's fun. My kids are in it. This is the Jouer Blush and Bloom Celebrate Cheek and Lip Duo. And I guess that's the shade. So I used this one, which wasn't as, I was hoping it would be a little more matchy, but it works. It works. And then for my highlighter, I cannot stop using these Fui products that Robert sent. They are so fun. If you were thinking about getting some and you like the idea of just something a little different for your cheeks, a little different texture, fun to play with, this is the Fui highlighter in the shade Sugar Powder. That's what's the highlight that's on my cheeks today. On my lips, one of my favorite lip products. Oh, by the way, all of this is PR except for the Jouer. This is, which one did I grab? I can never read them. This is freaking terrible. Okay, do I still have the magnifying glass on here? I had the magnifying glass. Where is it? Hold on, let me take a picture of it. Come on, picture. And then we're gonna zoom it in. Dapper. This is Dapper, and I love it. I love it so much. And this is my BK Beauty sweatshirt that they gave me at Creators and Friends. And that is what is on my face today. Those are the major things on my face. So there we go. Nicole says, can we talk about how the background of a palette influences perception of color story? Like if it's a bright color and your eyes see all the shades tinted by the background color. Yeah, I think that just like the layout too can also influence how you see an eyeshadow palette. Like for like the Bitten palette, the background really makes it like, it really adds to it, I feel like. You know, it just kind of changes your perception. Like the shades haven't changed. But if this was black, I feel like it would have a totally different vibe than it being, you know, the maroonish kind of shade. Yeah, I mean, like you have something like this with the black background, it really gives a different vibe. So yeah, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. And like with Laura's palette, I feel like it gave it a totally different vibe and it really threw people off. All right. Next up. Yeah. Lorac Mega Pro. Okay. Some of y'all might not even know Lorac because Lorac has disappeared off the planet. I don't even know if this brand's even still in existence, to be honest with you. Last time I checked, it was at Kohl's, but I don't know. Like, I don't even know. Lorac Mega Pro palettes were so in demand. Okay. And I think I've told the story in live chat before, but this palette, everybody was losing their mind about this launching. Like, people were so freaking excited about this palette. They launched it on Amazon. It sold out in seconds. And I got one because one of my subscribers gave me a heads up, and they like sent me a message, and I happened to see it right that second. Like, the Lorac Mega Pro is on Amazon. Go get it. I jumped in, I grabbed it. I went back after I purchased it, and they were all sold out. Like, people were losing their mind over this palette. And then it took forever for other people to get it. So I felt so lucky and so fortunate to have this palette. Is this really that exciting? Like, now in hindsight, like looking at this, like, why did we lose our minds? Why did we lose our minds over this? I think it was because the only place you could really get eyeshadow palettes of like this many eyeshadows in a palette were like the cheap palettes, like the Coastal Scents 88 palettes and stuff like that, where you would get this many shadows. But Lorac had such a reputation for high quality shadows. So to have this many shadows in an eyeshadow palette was kind of unheard of. So we were all freaking out, and the Lorac Pro palettes were so popular. And this broke the internet. Like, everybody was losing their mind over it. They ended up coming out with, I think, 4 of these, and all of them, I think, did pretty well. They all had different colors on the outside. There was a white one, there was a blue one, I think there was a pink one, but yes, everybody lost their mind over this palette, and I felt really special that I got my hands on it. Okay, are they still at Ulta? I think they might be. I think you're right, Pam. I think they might still be at Ulta. Audrey says they still have a Lorac Pro palette just for the nostalgia of it all. I also really like their eyeshadow primer. Yeah, I mean, I don't. This is the sad thing about Lorac is I don't feel like they did anything to like deserve to be like flicked to the ethers of the internet. Like, I don't know what they did, like, other than selling at Kohl's. Like, I don't. I don't feel like they did anything wrong. I don't think their quality went down. I don't think. Like, I don't remember them doing anything. Like, why did we shun them? What did they do to us? I don't remember. Bring back Lorac. It's my plea to bring back Lorac. All right, next up. Okay, we gotta talk this baby. This baby. I talked about this briefly in What's With Makeup today, because there's a new docuseries created by Sephora. And there's 3 different three different music artists, and they talk about their relationship to makeup. I've only watched the first one so far, and it's on Chapel Roan. And it's so interesting because they zoom in, and I talk about this a little bit in What's Up in Makeup. They zoom in on the table where Chapel Roan is going to do her makeup, and she's going to tell her story as she does her makeup. It's like a getting ready with me. It's such a genius idea. It's so well done. It really is. And they really get Chapel to talk about some very interesting things about her life. I don't know if you're a big Chapel Roan fan. Maybe you already knew that stuff. I did not know that stuff. I thought it was fascinating. So Chapel Roan sits down, and she's at this makeup table, and there's all this makeup on the table, and it's all stuff you can buy at Sephora. There's a Natasha Denona palette. There's a Dior palette. There's all kinds of stuff. There's a Benefit mascara. There's all this stuff on the table that's all Sephora brands, right? And then the docuseries goes on and on and on. And as she's getting ready, the Sephora stuff is buried in the things that she actually uses, which are not found at Sephora. And I love that they actually showed that. There's a ColourPop, the white palette that was like a rainbow palette they released. I think it was for Pride like years ago. And then this palette. And you can clearly see that it's the Jaclyn Hill palette. And I was like, wow. I can't believe they showed that, because those are products you can't get at Sephora. And they're so used. And I'm like, Chapel Roan is one of us. She's part of the beauty community. She has the Jaclyn Hill palette. Like, what? I don't know if Jaclyn has realized, because it just came out. I don't know if she realized that her palette is in the docuseries or not. But I said, I would be losing my absolute mind if I saw my palette. Like, if I saw my Ofra lip kit in that video, I would die. You know what I mean? Like, it was something that I created, and like, to see like somebody that iconic using my product, I would die. I would absolutely die. So this is my Jaclyn Hill Morphe palette. This is the original. So I remember people were like there was no shade names and people were upset there were no shade names. And back then the shade names were super, super important because when you were doing a tutorial or when you were doing a review, it was important to talk about the shade names so that people would know what you were talking about. I don't feel like people care as much about shade names as they used to, but that used to be a big deal. So they sent this card with the shade names on it. So I taped it to the inside so I would know what the individual shade names were. They eventually redesigned it to put the shade names on the palette. So the big controversy on this, I'm very proud. It was one of the first things that I uncovered that people did not know. Morphe ended up apologizing to me for not telling me the truth. I don't know if they lied. I think that the person just didn't know and they didn't tell me the truth. But Jaclyn was coming out with the second one of these with Morphe. And it was all these pinks and, all these bright colors. And she had said in the video that it was the same great formula as the original palette. And back then I used to do a lot of ingredient analysis. I used to look deep into ingredients. Like I had a whole spreadsheet of all the Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes and which ones were the same and which ones were different and how they were different and how subculture was different than the other ones, which I have subculture down here. I had this whole thing where I was looking at ingredients like super deep. And I looked, I was like, are they the same formula though? And I looked and they weren't. And I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. Then my sister-in-law came over and she brought her new Jaclyn Hill palette that she had just bought, this one, over. That was brand new. And she's like, I hate it. And I was like, what do you mean you hate it? She's like, I hate it. And I was like, this is such a fantastic palette. How do you hate it? Like, it doesn't even make any sense. So I swatched it and I was like, this is not the same. This is different. So not only was the eyeshadow palette that Jaclyn was coming out with different, but the one that they were selling now, that was this one, was different than the original. I was like, something's going on. So it turned out they changed this palette without telling anybody, and they made it not vegan. So I contacted Morphe customer service. I was like, this ain't the same formula. And they said, yes, it is. So I made a video and I was like, this is not the same formula. And then Morphe had to like come on and apologize to me for lying or not telling the truth or not giving me all the information. And people were pissed because there were vegans that were buying palette because it originally had been vegan. They changed the formula and didn't tell anybody. So that was the controversy behind it. And whether Jaclyn knew they changed the formula or not, we'll never know. But things that went during my research led me to believe that she probably did know they changed the formula, which is really sad. It probably had something to do with ingredient availability or something like that, or the cost of the ingredients, something, but they really should have said, revamped formula or something, or somehow giving people a hint if they're going to make it from vegan to not vegan. I feel like that was the biggest deal about it. And also people, I have a video that says I took down my Jaclyn Hill reviews of this palette because this palette is no longer available. This formula is no longer available. And it's iconic. That's why Travel Roan used it, is because this palette was so good. It was so much better than all the other Morphe palettes. This was an exception. This was a fantastic eyeshadow palette. And Jaclyn did that. I give her 100% credit for pushing them to come out with a better formula. At the time, there was only one other eyeshadow palette in the Morphe collection in the whole line that had that formula, and it was a smaller palette. So that was the drama surrounding that. I'm sure there was a lot more, but that's what stands out. Okay. Let's grab this one next. The Jackie Aina palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills. I have another Anastasia Beverly Hills. The drama behind this was that back when this was launched, people were collecting ABH palettes. I was collecting them. I was getting every single one because they weren't coming out with very many. Like it would be maybe 4 a year, 5 a year at the most, not that many. So you could easily collect them because you were getting them every few months. It was, save up a little bit of cash, spend your $50 or $40 some and get your ABH palette. And I was reviewing all of them. Like I said, had the big spreadsheets and all that. So the Jackie Aina palette drops and people were so excited because this was specifically made for deeper skin tones, to show up on deeper skin tones, to look good on deeper skin tones. Of course, anybody could use it, but it was made specifically with deeper skin tones in mind. And people were so happy about it. And then ABH launched like 3 other eyeshadow palettes like right after, and this never got its chance to really shine. This never really got its chance in the spotlight like other palettes in the past where there was space between. And I'm pretty sure it was right around that time that ABH had gotten investors, and I think they changed their strategy of, well, we're making so much money on eyeshadow palettes, why aren't we making more of them so we can make more money? And it backfired. And I think that ABH lost its magic right after this palette. I feel like this was the last palette where ABH had magic. And it just kind of fizzled after that, where people, they launched the Norvina line, which really wasn't very good. It was weird. And they were just launching so much stuff, and it was just flooding their customers with product. And yeah, you could buy some and not buy others, but that wasn't the point, because we were collectors. We were enjoying collecting all the products, so that we couldn't buy everything. It kind of got rid of the magic of it. And I feel like Jackie Aina was kind of the last hurrah. Amrezy was a really good palette too. I think that launched around the same time, but and it was really good. It was a really good eyeshadow palette. Even on my complexion, I really enjoyed it. But I really think she did something special here, and I feel like it didn't get its time in the spotlight the way that it should have. So yeah, that is the Jackie Aina ABH palette. Yeah. Veronica says Modern Renaissance, Subculture, Prism, Riviera, Jackie Aina, Carly Bible, Alyssa Edwards. Yeah, I think it was Alyssa right around that time. It was before Subculture was Modern Renaissance, and Subculture and Prism were before. But Riviera, I feel like, was right before. And then the Jackie Aina palette, I think the Carly Bible palette and the Alyssa Edwards palette all launched at the same time, if I remember right. I could be wrong there. That's absolutely true, Catherine. ABH also got mixed up in the Russian political drama. You're absolutely right. There was the post of Putin with a shirt off, and Anastasia was liking the post and commenting like heart emojis or like the heart eye emojis and stuff. And people were not having any of that. I knew what you meant. It's okay. Prism, not prison. I knew that. It's totally fine. I knew exactly what you meant. Okay, so let's talk this guy. Okay. Too Faced chocolate bar palette. So this is, speaking of Jackie Aina worked on this palette. It was the same time she was helping them with their complexion range, which obviously they still need help on. If you haven't seen Gloria's video, go over to Gloria's Instagram and check out her video on the ABH contour. It is so sad. It is so sad. Like, Jackie Aina has got to be like, oh wait, that was ABH, not Too Faced. Never mind. I don't know why I was thinking Too Faced. I think she did something with Too Faced too. That Too Faced was missing the mark. Yeah, I'm getting my things confused. But anyway, go over watch Gloria's thing anyway. ABH's contour was, for deeper skin tones, was just like, it's not like it. Maybe somebody with medium skin tone can use the deepest one. Anyway, this palette, this is the chocolate gold palette. So to get the timeline, the original chocolate bar palette broke the internet. If anything, the internet could have been broken back then. The internet, like, beauty community was still relatively young at that point when the Too Faced chocolate bar palette came out. Everybody lost their minds. It smelled like chocolate. People loved it. And then Makeup Revolution started copying it and coming out with their own chocolate bar palettes and making dupes for it. And the difference is that the Makeup Revolution ones had this big drip on them, right? But they're clearly copying Too Faced. Like, everybody knew it was supposed to be a copy of Too Faced. Too Faced was pissed, so they copied Makeup Revolution. And they came out with the chocolate gold palette. And this palette was really good. Like, even compared to the original chocolate bar palette, this palette was really good. Like, this, I loved. My sister-in-law didn't like this one either, but I loved this one. I remember taking this on multiple trips as like my only palette. I really loved this palette. And it still smells like chocolate. I can smell it from here. And yeah, this was iconic because it was their clapback duping the brand that had duped them. And it was just really funny. And we all laughed and we thought it was great. That was enjoyable. That was a fun time. Love that. Okay. James Charles Morphe palette. This had multiple controversies. First of all, it's freaking ginormous. Like, there's no reason for a palette to be this big. Like, this is like the size of like a photo you put on your wall.
Like this is the most obnoxious size ever. Look how big this freaking thing is. It's so big. Okay. So first, there was the issue with the pigments, with Cody Tyler and the pigments. And I do have videos on this as well. And basically, James totally misrepresented what a pressed pigment was. And I feel like Morphe should have told him. I feel like it was Morphe's responsibility to educate him, that he said that pressed pigments were just like that. They were pigments pressed, which is not real. Like we talked about with the electric palette earlier, the reason why a company will say pressed pigment instead of eyeshadow is because it includes colorants that are not FDA approved for eye use. So they can't call it an eyeshadow, so they call it a pressed pigment. That is the only reason why it's called a pressed pigment. If you look at the ingredient list side by side of the pressed pigments and the eyeshadows, they're nearly identical. There's little variations in the formula the way that eyeshadows do, but they're almost the same. They have this almost the same exact number of ingredients, because he was saying that it was just pigment pressed into a pan, which was not true. If you look at the ingredient list, there's tons of other ingredients. And the only real difference is the pigments that they use that are not approved for eye use. So he misspoke or whatever in his video. He didn't know what he was talking about, but he said it with his whole chest like he did. And I blame Morphe, honestly, for that. I will hold James accountable for the stuff that he's done, but I don't feel like that was his fault. Anyway, so there was that. Then there was Cody, who said she got hives, and he was clapping back at her from the eyeshadow. And the biggest thing that I feel like doesn't get enough attention is the fact that this palette was so hard to work with. Like these eyeshadows were terrible. They were terrible. They were awful, in my opinion. They were so hard to work with. Some of them, they didn't blend. And he even told me, I remember talking to him in DM when I was working with this, and I was like, these are really hard to work with. Like, I'm not, and he was like, tell me you got to use the P. Louise primer. I was like, I don't have that. And he was like, giving me some alternatives of primers to use. Like, there were so many tricks of how to get this palette to work. Like, I think you really had to be talented at makeup in order to get this to work, because and I'm not. Like, I can hold my own. Like, if you compare it to like I could sing karaoke where people wouldn't be offended, but I'm not a good singer, right? People would probably be like, oh, that was fun. Don't get up and sing again, kind of thing. That's the way I feel like I am with eyeshadow. Like, I can hold my own. Like, I can put on a look. But am I a makeup artist? Can I finagle something that's like this, that's hard to work with? No, absolutely not. I was terrible at using this palette. It was so hard to work with. It was not good. It was not good at all. It was a terrible eyeshadow palette. That's just my opinion. Unless you're very talented with eyeshadow, like, then yeah, you're going to be able to, rub dirt on your face and be able to make it look good. That's the way I felt like this palette was. Palette was absolute trash, in my opinion, just quality wise, absolute trash. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. I'm going to stick to it. Okay. Got two more. Okay. AVH subculture. We have to talk about subculture. Okay. This palette. Hey, remember I was saying earlier about how AVH had this reputation, collectors, everybody's collecting these palettes, everybody's reviewing these palettes. It's the height of makeup reviews. Everybody's reviewing everything. People got this palette, including myself, and I was like, this looks like dirt. Like this, there's something wrong with this palette. There's something wrong with the way this blends. If you love this palette, hold on. There's a reason why you probably love it, most likely. Either you're a really good makeup artist or there's another reason. This palette was so hard to work with. I remember watching Alyssa Ashley's review of this, and she was like, what is even happening? Why does this look like mud? And it's because they use the complementary colors. So if you blend across the color wheel, you're going to end up with mud. And that's what happened, because what they did with this is they changed the formula. And I talked about this when I talked about the different formulas of the AVH palettes. This palette had a completely different formula with less ingredients in the shadows. There was more pigment in these. There was more pigment load in these, and it made it really difficult to work with. I can see why ABH went that direction, but this was not the palette to do it, because they used so many colors that were opposite on the color wheel. So it turned to mud on people's eyes. And even a lot of makeup artists, like people like Alyssa Ashley, who are actually talented, could not use this and struggled with it. So if you did not buy the original one and you bought it after all the controversy, chances are this is not the palette you have, because they went in and they changed the formula. They changed it to be more like the modern Renaissance. They completely reformulated all of the shades. So if you bought this not at launch, you may have the newer formula. So what you can do to check, which if you would have to have the original box. If you had the original box, if the ingredients are in each shadow is maybe 6 or 7 ingredients, you have the original. If it's more than that, if it's, 10, 15 ingredients, it's the revamped version, but it's not listed on the back here. You would have to have the original box to know. But they did try to fix it. And then the reviews went, more reviews went up. People were like, I don't understand why everybody's complaining about this. It works great. And it's because they changed the formula from the original, which they should have. I'm not knocking them for doing that. I think that was a really smart move to do that. They absolutely should have. But there's a reason why people were confused later, why people complain so much about it is because this is the original, and they fixed it and made it better. So that's what happened with that. But the overwhelming, even from people super talented at makeup, review on this was that it blended terrible. It was hard to work with, and the shades look like mud on the eye. It was hard to keep them separate. That it was like they didn't blend into each other. They mixed. The colors mixed instead of blending into each other, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm making any sense. All right. Got one left. Lucky Moon Gaming says, oh, I must have the rebrand. It has the ingredients on the back of it. Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, this one. Oh, it does have the ingredients on the back of it. It does. Okay. So let me see if I can show you. The ingredients are on the back of it. It's just really tiny. So you see how the lines are really small? Like there's really not too many ingredients in there. That's the original. So there's not many ingredients in there. Where if you look at this one, look at the Modern Renaissance. That's what it should look like if you have the new one. It should look more similar to that. The difference. Right? Oops, sorry. I didn't mean to hit the microphone. Thank you so much, because I wouldn't have given it a second look. You're absolutely right. The ingredients are on here. So there you go. Thank you for that. I would have missed that. Thank you so much. You are the best. Yeah, Sorojan says the reformulated one has a gazillion ingredients. Yeah, it should look more like this one, where it's like that block of text instead of, yeah. The things, right? The things. I love when I can like show you in real time and like actually side by side show you the stories. So, okay. Last one. We have to talk about Too Faced Sweet Peach. We have to talk about it. This was an iconic time in makeup launches. This was, and I've said this recently, I don't think there was ever a makeup launch like this before or after when Sweet Peach launched. It was a whole collection of products. And, well, first, this launched by itself, and it sold out immediately. And they needed to restock it. So they restocked it with a bunch of other products. So they had, and then they lived off this for a little while. Excuse me, for a couple years. They were just releasing peach stuff. I always said they needed to go strawberry, but who am I? So when this launched the second time, when this restocked and they launched the entire Sweet Peach collection, it was right around the Christmas holiday season, and there was a queue online. It was the first time I'd ever waited in a queue online. And I had like 10,000 people in front of me waiting to order something like that. Like, it was wild. It was wild. The hype leading up to this launch and everybody wanting it. Like, everybody was freaking out over it. So by the time I got in, I think I wasn't able to get the full collection, but I spent hundreds of dollars on that collection and reviewed it for the channel and everything. And there was things that were good, things that weren't good. The highlighter palette was awful. It was atrocious, but I loved the foundation. It was like this peach foundation, like peach meaning it smelled like peaches and had peach branding, but of course they had a bunch of shades. And it was this light, beautiful satin finish, and it was gorgeous. but there definitely were duds. I remember the highlighter palette. They were calling it the Gili formula or whatever. And it was so hard packed that it was really hard to get the formula off of the pan. Now, I think now that would have been accepted more because we like more of like a wash of highlight. That's more trendy. Where back then you wanted that highlight to be popping on your cheeks. You wanted it to like glow from space, like straight glowy. And that just didn't do it. And I think that we just, at least me, I'll speak for myself, I did not understand that it wasn't supposed to be like that. It was supposed to be more of a subtle highlight because we just weren't doing that then. And that time period was my only experience with using highlighters. So I didn't get it. Now in hindsight, I kind of get it more, but it was just so hard to get the product to pick up on the brush that it was, a lot of people didn't like it. I didn't like it. But these eyeshadow palettes were actually like, they were pretty good. They were pretty good. The eyeshadow palette was good. And I feel like that some of the other products, their powder, the peach powder was amazing. There was some really good stuff in that collection, really good stuff. And just the hype around that collection, I don't think will ever happen again. Ever. Ever. I don't think it'll ever happen again. Susan says, OMG, the Sweet Peach was my first real eye palette. Kids saved up to buy it for my birthday. Oh, the memories. I know, right? I know. Veronica says, imagine if they had done something good with their spinoff. Sweet Peach, Sour Cherry, Juicy Strawberry. Exactly. Exactly. Grape or something. Like they could have done so much with that. So much. They could have done like a fruit salad or something even. Like a breakfast fruit salad with like pineapple and blueberries and strawberries, like something like that. And had it be like shaped like a little bowl or something, like I don't know. Too Faced didn't do too many shaped palettes though. I do have this one that was shaped. They did this one, the rainbow one. This was the Life's a Festival palette. This one, people hated this one because it didn't have a lot of pigment. It was like super light and really not great. So, but anyway, that's it. That's what I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed live chat. I hope you enjoyed the watermelon palette. How fun would that have been? That would have been so fun. Why don't I work for Too Faced? I don't know. But anyway, I hope that you all enjoyed live chat today. I enjoyed hanging out with you and talking with you about this stuff. It's so fun to kind of go down memory lane, and I love telling stories. I love stories in general. And I feel like when was the last time we had a good eyeshadow palette story where there was some story surrounding an eyeshadow palette launch? It's been years. It's been years. Like we need some good trivial drama in our lives, like things that are inconsequential. Can we just get some trivial drama? So I hope that you enjoyed it. I enjoyed hanging out with you. Just a friendly reminder, quick reminder that I am going on a trip with my son. We are going to Port Canaveral to go on a cruise together, but we're spending a couple days in Orlando. We're flying in on Friday. And then we are going on Wonder of the Seas, which is a Royal Caribbean ship. And I had gone on a cruise with my mom on Symphony of the Seas. And the whole time I was on it, I was thinking, my son would love this. Like the whole time I was like, I wish my son was here specifically. Like Phoenix would like it. Phoenix would be cool with it. But it really is my son. So I planned this trip for us, and he's a big theme park person, and we're going to go to Universal Studios. I've got it all mapped out. I've got the plan. Like I've had that, like I'm a planner. You guys know me and my research. I'm a planner. So I've got everything planned of like how it's all going to go. And I hope it all works out. I'm sure there are going to be things that won't, go according to plan, but it'll be fine. So unfortunately, because it's a cruise, it goes weekend to weekend. So because we're leaving on Friday, that knocks out What's Up and Makeup for this weekend. And then we get back on a Sunday. So that knocks out next weekend. So we're getting back late on Sunday. So there isn't going to be any What's Up and Makeup or live chat for 2 weeks, which really sucks. Like I'm pretty like why did I mean, because it had to be like that if we were going to do this particular trip. But I'm going to miss you guys. I'm going to miss you. However, I am getting that dang Ordinary video up this week. Come hell or high water, I am getting that Ordinary video up this week. It is filmed. I have all the spaces cut out. I just have to do the inserting of all of the things, which it's going to take me a long time because it is so, and it's long. It's probably going to be around 2 hours long. However, it is moving. It moves. It is event after event after event after event, and I promise you I'm not long-winded in it. Like I move it as fast as I possibly can through these stories. Like, but so much happened with The Ordinary and Brandon in 2018, specifically into the beginning of 2019. It's wild. It is a wild story. And if you do not know this story, you have got to watch this video. I even even if you know the story, there are probably pieces that you didn't know. And I've got it all worked out. Of course, I've got it in the timeline. So it's all, sequential. And it is absolutely fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. So I hope that you watch it, because I think you're gonna love it. I think you're gonna really enjoy it. And then after that, I have planned the next video to go up, hopefully if it works out, is gonna be another interview with a person that I think will have a lot to say, is very related to the story about The Ordinary. And I'm so excited to interview her. And I want to keep it a surprise at this point, but it's somebody that you're going to know, and somebody that you are going to love to hear their perspective on how The Ordinary changed the industry and just the skincare industry in general. And I'm just really, really excited, but I don't want to tell you just in case it doesn't work out. If it doesn't work out, I'll tell you who it was. If it does work out, then you're going to see the interview. So we're going to schedule that after I get back from my trip. So I'm so excited about that. And then we're moving into beauty MLM land, which I'm excited to research that too. All right, I'm going to shut up. Sorry, moderators, I kept you an extra 5 minutes. I'm going to go. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. I don't want to go because I'm going to miss you, but I have to. So mad love to you. Have a wonderful couple of weeks. Take a deep breath. Take some time to yourself. Make sure you're indulging in some self-care. Make sure you're taking care of yourself, taking some moments away from things that are stressful. It's so, so important that we take some time to ourselves whenever we can. I know it's a privilege, and I know a lot of people, you've got to work and you've got all these things, and it's hard to find those moments to take care of yourself. But please, 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 at least be conscious and try to find some time. It doesn't matter what it is, but finding something that brings you joy where you can just escape for a while. Like, please, please take care of yourself. And I'd love to you. Have a wonderful couple weeks. And I will see you hopefully Friday, maybe even Thursday for The Ordinary Part 2. All right. I'd love. Bye.